Diane Haworth, welcome to Seeking the Beyond. Will you
Oh, I'm
introduce
so
yourself
excited.
for us, please?
I will, and I'm so excited. I even talked over you. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
I My name is Diane Haworth. I'm a heart-centered coach, a spiritual teacher. I'm the founder of the Be Love Principles. But really, more than anything else, I'm just a human trying to figure out how to live my best life. And I want to learn how to do that from a place of divine love.
And that's absolutely wonderful. Just a human trying to figure things out. Um, Diane, could you tell us how did your spiritual journey begin, and did you experience a calling at any point?
I think it's like my story is like a lot of people. My life wasn't working, and I was just trying to figure it out. I grew up in the 60s in the United States, right outside of Washington, D.C., in a rural town in Virginia. And, I went to church and did my best to obey my parents and did well in school and did everything I was supposed to do, read the books, watched Oprah, took the classes, and still I just felt like something, like I missed something. Either I wasn't there the day we went over the vital information in church, or
Yeah,
just something was missing. And
something was
for
missing.
me, yeah, it was just missing. And for me, I realized the more I looked externally, the more really what I consider my soul was just beckoning me, just come inside, come inside. So it was really meditation that really helped turn my life around.
Wow, so meditation helped you turn your life around. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, as I said, I grew up in a very small rural community. We
Hmm.
didn't even have yoga studios. Like that was considered like too woo-woo for our little community. And it was actually the minister in the Presbyterian church that I went to at the time. He had started to become aware of centering prayer, Thomas Keating.
Hmm.
And he was really, really affected by it. And he brought a small group of us together. I think there's about a dozen. And we would meet on Wednesdays. And really, the reason I put my hand up was this promise of more peace and calm in my life. That was
Mm,
really what I wanted. My life was very chaotic, like many people, right? We all go through ups and downs and all kinds of things. But
absolutely.
this idea that there could be a well of inner peace that I could
Mm.
not only tap into, but that would help me live a more peaceful life. That was exciting to me. So I have to give credit where credit's due. It came from a very unlikely source. I have to tell you, the people in town thought he was nuts for teaching us how to meditate, but it was amazing.
And that's fascinating that he taught you about this well of inner peace. Um,
Mhm.
just briefly, could you tell us what it feels like to tap into that
I can tell you what it feels like for me.
for you?
I think that everybody has their own interpretation and their own experience. For me, there was a release of attachment to anything related to my identity. So I wasn't a woman this age in a particular geographical place, right?
Hmm.
I fell into this place after practice, by the way. It wasn't like first time any
Yeah.
at all. But I was able to get to this place where there is expansiveness, freedom. It doesn't feel like any constrictions at all. Though things that typically would be of concern, right? Oh, I've got this
Mm.
bill to pay. Did I go to the grocery store and get this? All of those little things just simply fall away. And when I really am in that deep state, there is this neutral place of unconditional love. And that was the first time I'd
Wow.
ever even touched that.
That's amazing that you were able to find this deep state of unconditional love. I think so many of us could use that.
And it's available to us all, right? I mean, it is, but it was certainly something I had to be introduced to in my culture. Not all. In
Hmm.
many cultures, right? That's just
Yes.
the way of life. but it was not that way in the United States.
Sure. And I certainly heard what you said. You came from a very sort of small community where the expectations are quite, I don't know if strict is the right word, but meditation,
Specific,
yoga, yeah.
very
This
specific.
these things are sort of a little bit, people are skeptical of them, but it sounds like you've really managed to connect in a new way with something powerful.
What's so amazing to me is that, it was always there. It was always there.
Mm,
It just was always there. I just forgot. And I know that a lot of the mystic cultures will talk about, right, the forgetting. We're behind the veil. We've forgotten where we came from. We've forgotten what we are.
yes.
Currently, I've got a little 1-year-old grandson, and the innocence and the curiosity and the acceptance and the non-judgment that I
Mm.
see in him, right? There's no judgment about anything. It's just he likes this, he doesn't like that, but he doesn't hold grudges
He doesn't hold
or
grudges,
anything like,
yeah.
no, but that purity of spirit,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what we all are. That's what we all are. And in this chaotic time, it seems to me that that purity, that authenticness
Mm-hmm.
is what can fuel the change we all want to see in the world, to have more compassion, more peace, yeah, more inclusiveness, more collaboration, healthy, happy collaboration. To me, it's going to, at least for me, it's going to come from that place of alignment to who I really am.
And that sounds absolutely wonderful, having that compassion, having that peace. Uh, could you tell us a little bit about your Be Love principles and how they work?
Thank you for asking. That's really the passion of my soul. I was like everybody else, just trying to do the best you can, right, in life with what you have and the challenges that come up and the joys,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to figure life out. And as I progressed on my spiritual path, as I became really deeply entrenched in healing modalities and coaching modalities, I did a lot of meditation in big groups, really loved that lifestyle. Study A Course in Miracles, have been studying that for years and years. In my practice, I would be journaling, and my journal question was typically, love, what do you most want me to know today? And to me,
Mm-hmm.
love is the intelligent, creative, expansive energy that beats your heart and mind, that creates galaxies, right? That's God, love, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it. And in my journaling, I would get direction, and it would just, be a couple lines here, sometimes a paragraph, depending on what was going on. But
Mm-hmm.
that was a normal practice for me. For about 6 months, I had also been really praying, show me how to serve. Show me how to be an
Yes.
instrument of your peace. And I'll be very honest with you, John. I thought I knew what that meant. I thought, well,
Mm.
maybe I'll go down to the pound and pet some puppies. Maybe I'll go do something like that. But I had no idea what was coming. I happened to be in a group situation. There's about 200 of us in this spiritual group, and we all together silently asked, "Love, what do you most want me to know today?" And
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a full-bodied experience.
Wow.
I was told to be love. And
Mm-hmm.
then there was like a scene that played out in front of me. But what happened was I was given specifically 4 ways to be love in the world. Now, of course, I needed them badly, right? This is what I needed to know. This is what I wanted. It
Yes.
was, I think it's important to note that this was not what I expected. When I said, show me how to be of service, I did not have any idea this would land in my lap. It's what I most needed for me.
Mm-hmm.
But now it has just become my passion to share them with everybody because they are transformational. And I'm happy to share what they are if you're interested.
Absolutely. Please tell us.
So there are 4 of them, and I'm sure we'll have links in the show notes. But the first principle is greet everyone with an open heart without an agenda. Now let's just think about that. Greet everyone with an open heart without an agenda. What would the world be like if we all could do that for one day?
Hmm.
If we could greet ourselves without our own judgments, without our own filters. So just that was absolutely transformational, right? That was the first one. The second one is see the divine essence in everyone and everything. See the divine essence in everyone and everything. If I'm looking at my 1-year-old grandson, that's very easy to do.
Hmm.
If I'm looking out in nature, if I'm seeing a beautiful flower, or I'm looking at a group of people that are doing heart-centered work, that's really easy to do. As I have worked with these principles, I have learned how to apply even this one in situations that seem dark. There's
Yes,
always the divine is everywhere. And this is what taught me
absolutely.
that.
Even in the dark. Yep.
This is what taught me that. So principle 3 is forgive quickly, completely, and unconditionally. So I'll say that one again. Forgive quickly, completely, and unconditionally. And I have to say, that's the one most people stumble over.
Yeah. Forgiveness is hard.
Yeah, and it was like, when I was going back through these, I'm like, 1, yeah, that's cool. 2, yeah, that's cool. Wait a minute. What is this 3? What is this one? Wait a minute. But as you begin to work with the principles guide you through them. And I'll explain that in a second. But the fourth principle was you are the light. Remember, you never left the light of the all. And
Hmm.
that was this, as I work with that principle, it's just this beautiful realization that we really are reflections, right? We are facets off a single beautiful divine stone.
Hmm.
And although it doesn't feel like that sometimes, if I can just tether myself to that truth, what I consider to be the truth of the oneness, then it helps me more graciously navigate life. And I'm not going to say it's always pretty because that wouldn't be true,
No, of course not.
because it's not. But when I look at those principles, I use them individually. But when I put them together as a process, if I can think of someone, for example, that I'm having a conflict with, and I go, show me how to see this person with an open heart without an agenda. And I
Mm.
sit with that. Show me their divine essence. And I sit with that. When I get to the forgiveness part, then my ego has let go of the story that
Yes.
I have told and repeated to myself, right? And I know you know this, John, but when we get to the forgiveness, we're always forgiving for ourselves. We're always forgiving for ourselves. Because sometimes people will hold on to resentments for decades. The
Mm.
person they're mad at could even be dead,
Yep. Yep.
and they're still mad. But this and if somebody, if somebody has done something, you need to call the police, go call the police. This isn't about not holding people accountable. This
Hmm.
is about understanding the difference between when my ego is mad at your ego action and
Hmm.
recognizing the divinity and the souls that connects us. That's what this process
Absolutely.
helps me do.
Yep. And and seeing people, as a soul, I think is such an important practice because, we all do stupid things. We all screw up from time to time.
We all do. And that's just a perspective anyway, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
I'll do something that I think is just really amazing, and my husband will go, "What were you thinking? Why did you do that?
Yep.
Why did you do that?" So I guess right or wrong is just perspective anyway.
Yeah.
Even though there are, certainly certain things that we as cultures agree to are not right. Um, yeah, but just this helps you get to see the world through a divine lens. when you use a
Yes.
tool like the Be Love principles. There's many tools. This is just the one that was given to me because I most needed it.
And that experience where these were given to you, that sounds like a hugely significant experience in your life. Can you just go into a little bit more detail about what that felt like while it was happening?
So it didn't feel real. It didn't feel real. I've meditated for many, many, many years. I
Hmm.
even had a near-death experience at one point. So
Wow.
things have happened, right? And they happen to lots of us. But when I just opened up, and after years of meditation, by the way, and asked that question, love, what do you most want me to know today? There was a physical sensation. I heard voices outside of my body. It wasn't inside my head. I heard them outside. I saw what looked like a movie that, transpired with the events that showed me each of these different principles. Afterwards, I became very sick. I became very, very sick. I lost my voice. Um, yeah, I lost my voice. So there was a physical alignment that needed to occur. And I don't want to
Hmm.
say that it was uh, painful necessarily, but it was, my body was adjusting to some kind of energy that had come in there, and it took a little while. What was
Yeah.
interesting was that we had we had a trauma in the family, right? Actually, the night that I got the principles, that I ended up using them to work through. And I lost my voice. And what was so interesting was, the first thing I would have done was been on the phone to my girlfriends. This happened. What do you think? What do you think it means? None of that. I literally couldn't even talk into my phone. My phone couldn't even hear me. It was this internal processing where I think the Holy Spirit, that's what it felt like to me, was just
Hmm.
holding me through this process so that my brain and body could catch up to what
Wow.
was going on.
That's really remarkable. I'm so glad you shared that with us. I think that's such a powerful experience, and I'm glad that you are now able to share those beloved principles with us.
I really appreciate being able to share them. And I think one of the things that I'd love to share with your audience is this, what has come to me after working with them for many years is I recognize there is this pull from my soul beckoning me, come on, this is it. This is what you want to do. This is what you're
Yeah.
here to do.
Yeah.
And that feels so different than being pushed from my ego.
Hmm.
That feels like you better do this or else, or you'll get in trouble if you don't do this. This is just, yeah, this sharing, it's just so joyful. And to me, I realize now that love is joy. It's
Yes.
it's joyful.
Oh, that's wonderful. Diane, can you think of the first time your faith was seriously challenged by something?
Yes, I think this would have been the first time. And it would have been, I mean, besides, childhood things, right?
Mm, mm,
Those kind of things. It was when I was giving birth to my first child, a daughter, in 1985, actually. So way back in the dark ages.
the year I was
And
born.
oh, well, there you go then. Okay. So, yeah, I had a very difficult pregnancy. My father was diagnosed with cancer. His brother, my uncle that I adored, was dying of cancer. So
Hmm.
there was just lots of sadness and turmoil and just unease in the family. And I became very sick, and I actually delivered 12 weeks early. And that's
Wow.
when I had the near death experience. My baby was 2 pounds. I had to deliver 90 miles away because you had to have special NICU units, neonatal intensive care units. We didn't have there in my little hospital. And I was sick, confused. Why was this happening to me? What didn't I have enough to deal with? Why was my baby?
Yeah.
Why did this happen to my baby? Um, And I just remember the day after she was born, I couldn't even see her for 24 hours because that's how sick I was. And I was also on a different floor in this particular hospital. I had gone up to see her in a wheelchair with hooked up to all kinds of things. She's this tiny little alien looking thing. She didn't look like any baby I'd ever seen. And I'd never been in a NICU unit. I had been too sick to go there in advance the way my then husband and family could. So it looked like I was on a spaceship. There's lights going on all the place. People were in masks. I didn't even understand what was going on. So I was just traumatized. And I kept saying,
Hmm.
why? What is happening here? And the day after she was born, that Monday, she was born Saturday, and this was the Monday actually, two doctors came in and they wouldn't look at me. They came in the door like this. And I thought, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And one of them brought his head up and he said, I'm so sorry. Your baby has had a bleed in the head. That happens with preemies, but we don't know what it means. We don't know if she's blind. We don't know if there's been permanent damage. We just don't know. And you can see 40 years later, and
Yeah.
I can
Oh,
still feel that.
absolutely.
So I just burst into tears. And these were young doctors, wonderful doctors. This was a teaching hospital, and you could tell this wasn't their favorite kind of news to deliver. So they left. My husband left. He was like, I just need air. So I was just crying and crying and crying. And why? Please save my
Why?
baby. Please don't make this happen to my baby. And this beautiful woman showed up at the door. The door was open to my room, and she was in her 30s. She had shoulder length brown hair. She had on jeans and a top. And I looked up and I see this woman, and she says, I saw you in the NICU unit. I have a baby boy up there. We're from Roanoke, Virginia. And
Hmm.
I just want you to know it's going to be okay. And as soon as I heard that, I just started to relax. There was something
Wow.
about her. And she said, what you need to do is take this day by day. And when that is too much, take it hour by hour. And when that feels like too much, take it moment by moment. But I promise you, everything's okay. And I cannot explain to you the release and the calm.
Hmm.
It just was this immediate sense of peace. And then she turned and walked away. So as soon as my husband came back, I said, we've got to go up there. I have to tell her what she did for me. He puts me in the wheelchair. We go up, and the nurses, there's only 12 babies in the unit. The nurses say, there's nobody here that looks like that. We don't have a little boy here from Roanoke. And I'm like, I just saw her and she looks like this, and this is what she's wearing. And they're like, sorry, but there's nobody here. To me, that felt like the divine coming in a form I could accept to comfort me at probably the lowest time in my life.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
It was just, yeah, although I can't say that I don't forget sometimes, there's just always now this understanding that love is always present. It will be present in a form you can accept, maybe not one you expect,
Hmm.
but it's always here. It's always here.
Absolutely. And it's amazing for me to hear that when you were, you know, in so much anxiety,
Oh,
pain, uncertainty, and this person just told you exactly what you needed to hear. That's amazing, and thank you so much for sharing.
well, and the what I felt was, I mean, lots of people were saying to me, it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right. But there just was a visceral response.
Yes.
And it was, when you hear truth, it resonates.
Hmm.
Yeah, it resonates. So to me, that was just, oh, yeah, that's just the divine
Yeah.
walking
What an
around helping.
experience. Oh my goodness. You may have already answered this question, but can you think of an episode or an event in your life where faith helped carry you through?
Oh, every day, like every day. Um, Yeah, with my dad, actually.
Hmm.
Um, my mother passed in 2005. And then my dad was by himself, and we were very close family. We're all in the same little town. And dad had physical issues, but he was around for another 8 years. And
Mm.
toward the end, um, he got blood poisoning and was hospitalized, and he just never came out of the hospital. So for almost 2 years, he was in the hospital in different surgeries.
Oh,
He,
wow.
had to go into a nursing home, and just we were on that train. And so many times I could feel myself be so angry about insurance. This was supposed to be paid and it wasn't paid, or
Yeah.
we're going to do this blood work and they didn't, just all of these things. And it wasn't until I remember my sister and I were in a waiting room, which is a great name for that because that's all you do, right? You just sit
Yeah.
there. And we were just, it was another test, and this thing didn't work, and this wasn't going on. It just was a
Yeah.
mess. And I remember looking outside, and my sister was just beside herself. And she's like, "What are we going to do?" And I remember something coming over me. And I just remember thinking, what would love have us do? How could we be love in this situation? How can we be
Hmm.
more loving to ourselves, to the doctors, certainly to dad, but how can we bring more love into this situation? And that shifted. That shifted everything. I'm not kidding you. There was a nurse, a particular nurse that I would just say wasn't my favorite.
Mm.
And when I consciously thought, how do I bring more love and appreciation to this person? And I didn't even have to really do anything, just my intent. And I'm telling you, everything changed. Even we had this weird insurance thing where the insurance company would say, yes, something's paid, and then we'd get rebilled for it. And it was just a mess. It just disappeared. It just resolved
Oh, wow.
just by consciously thinking, what does love look like here? And how does love move
Mm.
me forward?
Hmm.
How does love move me
How
forward?
does
Because I
love move me forward?
Yeah, because I knew what resentment and anger, I knew how that moved me forward.
Oh, yeah. I know those ones.
And that wasn't very pleasant.
Oh, no, it isn't.
Yeah, but what does love look like here, and how does love move me forward?
Yeah.
That that was so comforting, and it brought me back to those times where I felt the hand of, to me, it's the hand of Christ, the hand of an angel God on my shoulder, just
Mm.
like, come on, let's go. Here we go.
Here we go.
Completely different orientation, completely different experience.
Yes, yes. And I think having that shift to a new orientation or perspective, it can really, reframe an entire experience, can't it?
Well, it's everything. I was explaining in a class the other day that I was teaching. Everybody has the experience of going into a party, right? And
Hmm.
maybe if you're like me, you're probably at the food table, so you know what it looks like from that part of the
Yeah,
room,
I'm
right?
just eating cheese.
There you go. So then, but when you walk around, you realize, oh, over here is this beautiful window. Oh, here's some people talking over here. Changing your perspective changes your experience.
Hmm.
So, changing my perspective from this is just a mess, it's never going to get any better, why won't anybody listen to me, to
Yeah.
wait a minute, what does love look like here and how does it move me forward? It just shifted everything. It wasn't that my dad
Yes.
got well, he did not, he did pass,
Yeah.
but I was able to be with him in a completely different way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that question, what does love look like in this situation? I think that is
Yeah.
such a profound and important one to ask ourselves repeatedly, whatever we're faced with.
Anything, right? Anything. And it's what was so lovely is that intelligence that I talked about, the intelligent, creative, expansive energy of love,
Hmm.
came to me when I'm looking out the window thinking, what are we going to do here? Show me, help me, tell me what to do. It came through me, and what's available to one of us is available to all
To
of
all
us,
of us. Yeah,
right? The mystics that have walked before us, they show us what's possible for us.
absolutely. And you mentioned earlier, the sort of preacher in your young community who exposed
Mhm.
you to meditation. But is there a person who acted as a mentor or a guide on your spiritual journey?
I had several older Christian women who were the epitome of love in action.
Hmm.
My family, who of course I love very much, but they had all kinds, they just had their stuff. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
But these two women, one of them was the mother of a friend of mine, and I would go over there often and spend the night and spend the weekend together, and we were together a lot. Her mother was so grounded and so present in service. I was over there for years and years and years and would see her getting up extra early to make food for a sick friend or making
Hmm.
calls or taking people to the hospital, not making a big deal about it, just being the hands and feet of Christ. I didn't
Yes.
really understand it until I saw that. I didn't really understand it. And then I had a lady that I worked with while I was going through a divorce. And I
Hmm.
was just felt really guilty and just, was having a hard time. And she was, again, this light for me and said, sometimes the broken vessels are the strongest. You
Hmm.
don't know how God's going to use you.
Yeah.
Let's be open.
Absolutely. Sometimes the broken vessels are the strongest, and I think that that gives us hope for when something negatively impacts us, when life doesn't go how we planned, we still have a role to play. We still have a purpose to serve.
We always have a purpose to serve, and we don't know what that is. I mean, the
Yes.
world is going a lot faster than it was when I was younger or even your age. When I was in school, girls could be teachers, ballerinas, or a nurse. That was pretty much what that was pretty much
Hmm.
what
Yep,
we
those
could
were your
do.
three options.
That was it. Yeah. So I guess you could be a nun, but I wasn't Catholic, so that was off the table. So, I mean, being a coach, a spiritual teacher, a speaker, being on the internet. What was the internet? We didn't have
Hmm.
an internet. The world is unfolding in miraculous ways, and there is a place for each one of us. And I know that
Mm.
because we're here. If you weren't,
Absolutely.
you're here. So you're here to contribute love, light, yeah, into the world and to enjoy it.
And I think we can all act as guides at some point or another because we've all learned something that's worth sharing.
Well, that is such a profound statement, John. And one of the things that I think it would be great for us to remember is we don't even know when we're acting as a guide.
Mm.
I doubt my friend's mother even knew that I noticed that she would get up early to do these things. She
Yeah.
wasn't doing it to be noticed, that she was just being a model for me.
Yeah.
We have no idea. All of us can think of a time that someone said one thing that impacted us so dramatically, and that person may not even remember it. So, no matter what, just doing our best, I think, to live from love as we can, because we're human, right?
Hmm.
Our trick to me, or our invitation, I should say, is to remember we're fully divine
Hmm.
and we're human.
Yeah.
So, at that intersection, at that heart place, as best we can, just like the lady told me, moment by moment, hour by hour, day by
Yeah.
day, do the best you can.
Diane, what is your favorite Bible passage or spiritual quote that you'd like to share?
Well, one that I have been going to quite often is a lesson from A Course in Miracles, and it says, I do not know what anything is for. And that has been so profound for me, because when I thought things were going to go like this and they didn't, and in retrospect, I can go back and go, oh my goodness, look at the good that came from that I couldn't even see. So remembering that actually is good. And there's another lesson from A Course in Miracles, is to the lesson today, the day we're filming this. I am sustained by the love of God.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll take that every day of the week.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll take that every day of the week.
Definitely. And I think, yeah, that acknowledges that we do live with some uncertainty. Things don't go how we plan. We're not sure what we're supposed to do, or what the higher um, calling is, but you know, we exist and we have something to contribute. And I think being open to where we're being called is an important thing to discern.
I think that's vital, right? Because, yeah, so many of us will think things were better in the old days. No, they weren't.
Mm,
No, they
hmm.
weren't. No, they weren't. They just were different.
Yeah,
And I think that for me, understanding that the part of me, my brain, my mind, my thoughts, that are going to try to figure something out, that's the part that's always getting me in trouble.
yeah,
that's that's unwork. When I can relax and align to love as best I can and just say,
show me.
show me how to see this differently. That's another one I pray like once an hour. Show
Yeah,
me how to see this differently. What is my part here? What is my part here? But my little busy mind is never going to be the one that comes up with the right answer.
yeah.
Never, John. Does that work out?
Oh, yeah. And finally, what spiritual insights have you gained from your journey that you'd like to share? I'm sure there's many, but what can you tell us?
It really is all about love. We try to make it convoluted. We try to make it complicated.
Yep.
We try to make it wear these clothes, eat this food, burn this candle, wave this crystal around, and all that stuff is fun. And it's all about love, not the love of attachment. That's
Hmm.
not it. Not I love my slippers, or I love my cat, or I love my kid. That's love of attachment. That's not what this is. This neutral love that encompasses everyone. It's like I tell my clients, it's like the sun shines on who you think is wicked or righteous.
Hmm.
Love loves everyone, is love.
Yes.
It's just all love. And to develop a relationship with that love in the form of Holy Spirit, Christ, Buddha, whatever you want to do, however that wherever that door opens for you,
Hmm.
that's it. It's all about love.
And Diane, where can our listeners find you online?
Oh, thank you. I'm all over YouTube. They can go to, I've got a link tree that's more from Diane, spelled with one N.com. I also have, if anybody's interested in the Be Love Principles, and I hope you are, you can
Yes.
go to
Oh, absolutely.
beloveprinciples.org. And I spent a lot of time creating little videos for each of the principles. There's tons of free resources. I even have coloring sheets on there, meditation. And I'm happy to gift your listeners with what I call the Be Love Bundle. And they can delve into it and see how this can transform your life.
Diane Hayworth, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
So much love to you, John. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the love that you shine into the world, and blessings to you and everyone who will ever hear this podcast. I love each and every one of you.